Hey everyone, welcome to our next online event. Today I'm your host, as usual, Nikita Maidanov. I'm going to tell you all the news and updates about in-app subscriptions from WWDC that is just recently ended. And well, I hope it will be informative for you. I hope you will learn something new today. It's a bit of a mix, it's a talk and also a news. Yeah, just to keep you in the loop, so you know what is possible with subscription, what is not possible in Apple subscriptions. So just all the updates that are here. So without further ado, let's begin. Here is my presentation. So say hi in the chat, please. Write if you can hear and see me. I hope you are. Okay, let's begin then. So, all the updates to subscriptions. This time, WWDC was not so fruitful in terms of updates. Like last year, as you remember, it was a huge update to the store kit, like the first one since, I don't know, iOS 11 or so. So it was a huge update to the store kit 2. So the big new version, major version, and Apple improved a lot of subscription stuff. But this time around, it's not so impactful, but still really welcome additions and updates to the subscriptions infrastructure that Apple gives us. So the first thing that Apple introduced is App Transaction API. So it's like a development of their improvement with StoreKit 2. So this is special API. It's called Transaction, which is a substitute for the receipt. If you remember the StoreKit 1, you used to have receipts that you had to check with Apple on special API, but now you have this transaction, and this transaction already holds information about all the user purchases and as well as transaction history. So you can just on device access the transaction history of the user. It's a great update, but and as well, this app transaction is already signed by Apple via GWT, JSON Web Tokens. So it's really safe and it's already checked for you, so you don't have to worry about it very much. But what is also great about this, that you can now implement it much faster than you used to, and also you can work around some edge cases which has not previously been possible without app transaction. For example, recently you had to write your own code to work around the case when you had a paid application and then you opened a new version of your app with in-app subscriptions. So a new version, for example 8.0, like here on this example. If this new version is free but with in-app purchases inside, it's a really common case actually. We in WWDC see it a lot. Almost very old apps that exist for a long time in the App Store, who used to be paid apps, now thinking about making it free and implementing app subscriptions. So if you want to do this and still give access to your paid features for all the customers who paid for the app and not for the subscriptions, you can implement a piece of code like this with App Transaction API. So you had to check a version of the app from App Transaction. So as I said previously, you have access to all history of purchases and all this stuff. So it's really trivial now. But anyways, if you're using a service like Adapti, it's even more trivial for you, because you can make all this stuff just in your dashboard, so you don't have to write any code for this. And actually in Adapti you can even send an API call and pinpoint specific users to give the access to. So it's even more trivialized if you use services like Adapti. But if you're writing your own code and you're implementing subscriptions yourself in your app, App Transaction API is gonna simplify a lot of the stuff for you. And also they have a special listener in your app delegate, so you will open the access right away without the need of any restoration, without the need of any purchase restoration. So it's really a good addition and improvement. Then there are some new fantastic properties of StoreKey 2. There was a lot of new properties in StoreKey 2, but they updated it this year, so they added some new stuff. For example, one of the, I think it will be used a lot by app developers. It's called price locale. So it's a special property that allows you to display derived numbers, like for example how much your subscription is costs for a month if you have a yearly subscription, like here an example. It's really a common case to use in your app and in paywalls. So I see that a lot. Previously, it was a bit of a hassle, to implement it. You had to think about putting, like, you can write the price right away, right, in the paywall, and some of the app developers doing it. But if you want to display the price in the correct currency, in the correct currency of the country, you either have to store these currencies in tiers somewhere, which is not a convenient way to implement it, or send with this product ID also product ID of the discounted price, or this piece, like derived number price, or so on. So we see that a lot actually in Adaptia, our customers sending the other product ID to display like a dashed out price or so. But with these additions, if you will want to implement this piece of the price, like derived number, you have all what you need. So you have price locale. Also, there is a new feature. It's a new property, environment. It's like one of those properties, like when you see it, you ask yourself why it was not implemented earlier. So yeah, now we have environment property, and we can check the sandbox or production for any app transaction. So you can easily filter out all purchases that is done in the sandbox. So you don't have to check for some bundles. And previously you had one of the ways to do it previously was to check some specific folders and for the access and so on. So it's a bit of annoying way to implement it, but now you have a specific property. It's long awaited, I would say. Then there is a recent subscription start date, and it's I know it sounds like like a date of the recent subscription, right? Right, but in reality, it's the date of starting the recent, like, continuous subscription. And what is continuous subscription? It's any subscription where there was no gaps more than 60 days between the periods, between paid periods. So basically what it's saying is this continuous subscription, it means that user is never leaving this subscription recovery dates, like 60 days subscription recovery, like if you have some billing issue. What is it for? So this property can be really useful to avoid your users for some long time subscribing for your app, some loyalty, right? So like here on example, you can unlock a free donut, something like that, for your most loyal subscribers. So yeah, it's now pretty trivial to implement a logic like this. So you can just check this value and see what it gives. So yeah, just like that. Yeah, let's solve new properties, but it's important to note that there are specific sentinel values. It's like a placeholder values that you will receive for these new properties, because they are all already working on iOS 15. So they are implemented like for one iOS earlier. So because of this versioning and all this development shenanigans, they had to implement these sentinel values that are sent to you if you're using StoreKit testing in Xcode for these values in iOS 15. So what does it mean? If you're using a specific way to test subscriptions, StoreKit testing, we've talked about it last year. And if you're trying to access these new values on iOS 15, then you will receive these stubs, not real values. Here, an example, like what you will receive for price locale, you will receive like XX locale, so it's not a real locale. And for environment, you will receive empty string, and for the subscription start date, you will receive the distant past date. So if you see something like that in your code or in your values, just you should keep that in mind. That this is the specific Sentinel values. Okay, that's it for the StoreKit, but they also implemented interesting stuff for SwiftUI applications. This new SwiftUI APIs for code redemption sheet, for example. So what's the idea here? As you may know, that I think for 2 years already there is a feature of showing this system screen of code redemption sheet, and you can generate these codes in the App Store Connect. And Apple actually is updating it, this feature recently. So now you can create the custom codes, like with specific title, like adapt is the best or something like that. Yeah, it's really easy to implement. You just call one method and you have this redemption sheet. But it was a bit of a hassle to implement this in SwiftUI previously, but now you have this specific way to call in any view. You just attach this property to a button, attach this function to a button, and yeah, the action will be to present this sheet. That's it. So as previously, the only way for you to check if user redeemed any code is to implement a listener in your app, so it still stands, so you have to do it, because there's also a nuance that customers can redeem codes in the App Store Connect as well as in your app. So if you even don't have the code redemption sheet in your app, the customer can redeem some code in the App Store Connect, and you have to have a listener to receive this transaction correctly. So that's that. And then there's also an app review request. It's a pretty famous alert. You've probably seen it before. So what's the idea here is to call this specific request review function for your SwiftUI view, and you will show this alert of reviews. But keep in mind that only Apple actually controls whether or not it will be shown. And there are some best practices, like you can show this alert max 3 times within any year. And then you should also ask sparingly. You shouldn't try to spam it. And you have to don't interrupt any user initiated stuff in your app, some actions. And keep that in mind. It's the same as before, so there is no new stuff here, but now you can call it in SwiftUI, and it's just a reminder about the best practices of review. If you don't have this review alert yet in your app, I highly encourage you to implement it, because it can help you with your app rating. Like, it can really help you with your app rating. So yeah, think about it. And then there's StoreKit messages. It's entirely new stuff. If you read our news, we have a news channel in the Telegram and in Discord. We wrote about it recently, that Apple now made this special cases where a user is not have to agree to the price increase for subscription. So you can increase the price of subscription, and the user will automatically agree to it. And previously they had to do it manually in the email, which is, well, it's not ideal, as you can probably expect. A lot of the customers was just lost because of this transition. And now you can more or less seamlessly move your subscribers to a more expensive tier. But Apple still, for some countries and some regions with specific laws that are not allowing doing this automatically, will show this StoreKit message. It's a new, special, beautiful, as you can see, sheet that is showing you the old price, the new price, and the starting date, and the customer can agree to this or they can skip it. So what's the idea here is that you don't have to implement anything for this. It will work automatically in new iOS. So Apple will call this sheet in your app like by themselves without your involvement here when your app enters foreground. So and sometimes it can be really it can be not ideal way to show pop-up like this in your app, right? So what you can do, you can implement this listener to show this message in your app by yourself in Swift, and then call this StoreKit messages sheet right like in the right time. So after your user is stopped doing something critical, after some flow in your app is finished or something like that. And also you can also see the type of this StoreKit message because this price increase is the only first of this subscription StoreKit messages. Like it's the first we know about it, but probably what it means, this feature, that Apple will introduce more of them, more of these messages, and well, you have to think about it. You have to implement this listener. So yeah, I would implement it if I were you. So it's fairly easy. I think it will take you like an hour, but I think it will be better than just pop up this screen after your app enters foreground. Then there is application username. It's not a new stuff. Last year in StoreKit 2 there was app account token, a specific property where you can save your user ID of your own customer system, of your own profile system, and then you will see this UID in any StoreKit transactions, which is perfect. You know, it's like it saves a lot of time and a lot of the errors when you receiving receipts and trying to figure out who is it receipt from. And then now you can also receive the application username right in your app in transaction API. So it's really useful. And we're in Adaptia updating our SDKs. You can expect a new version, I think, pretty soon with the implementation of StoreKit 2. And also we are implementing this app account token as well. So you will receive this user ID of your own account, not only in Adaptia, but also in any transaction, any StoreKit transaction you will see. So yeah, it's really useful. Let's proceed to Xcode testing. As you may know, as I said previously, there is StoreKit testing in Xcode, where you can create this configuration, where you can implement these fake subscriptions or purchases and see, like in the interface, manipulate with them, try implement something, test something. You can even write XC test on it. So it's it's really a powerful tool to test. If you know previously how it was working, the sandbox is the only way. It was the only way to test subscriptions, and it was like really messy for a lot of reasons. It's still not working perfectly, so you should definitely look into Xcode testing if you want to test it like more conveniently and more reliably. And Apple updated this feature, and they added this toggle to sync the StoreKit configuration file with the App Store Connect. And this is amazing because all you have to do is create the StoreKit configuration file, or select for this toggle, press next, and eventually this configuration file will sync up with your App Store Connect, and you will see all your real subscriptions here, and then you can proceed to testing it. It's really useful. And if you're not yet started doing Xcode testing, for some reason, now it's perfect opportunity for you. I myself thinking that it's time to start using Xcode testing only because of this feature. Also now with circuit testing in Xcode, you can also test some advanced subscription use cases like refunds, cross grades, and so on. So yeah, it's just getting more advanced in terms of the use cases. So it's always great to see. Okay, now actually that's it for updates for in-app subscriptions. But I figured that 20-minute talk is not like the best way to make online event, and I want to put as much useful information for you as possible to this talk. So I decided to add a bit about the new SCAD network. If you're working with advertisers, if you're buying app ads for your app, it's probably useful information for you. So yeah, just a quick recap. Apple introduced a new term called crowd anonymity. What's the idea here is that the more installs you have, the more data Apple can send you via a SCAD network, because it will be harder for you to identify a specific user in the array of this data. But on the contrary, the less installs you have, the more anonymity you will see in your values. Because, well, if you have like 5 installs, it will be pretty easy to identify like who installed it, like your friend, your mom, and so on. So yeah, crowd anonymity is a new term, and it's a new way for Apple to give you more data while still remaining private and secure. So instead of the old campaign identifier, which was just a 2-digit identifier, now we have source identifier, and it's the first example of more data that Apple will send to us via SCADA network. So as you can see, it's 4-digit, but it's not like ID of your user or something like that. You should think about it like a hierarchical numbers, like 4 digits, where last 2 digits are representing campaign, the second digit representing location, and the first one representing placement of your ads. So the idea is here that you can live without location and placement, right? The campaign is will be sent even if you have the low number of installs. But if you have a bigger app and bigger installs, you will see more data. So yeah, that's an example how it works. So we don't know how many is the high number of installs, but it's up to Apple to decide. But anyways, it's always nice to see that we will see more data, and will probably impact our mobile market in some way. Maybe it's not that major, but it's still I think better than nothing. As we started thinking about what is better than nothing, there is new conversion value, which is coarse. So previously it was always a fine conversion value, and for the low number of installs and for low data, we have not received any conversion values. But now there is new data, a new value which is consists only from low, medium, or high. So as I said before, it's better than nothing. So now if you have like a medium amount of installs, this crowd anonymity is also working, and you will receive at least some indication of your conversions, like if this high conversion rate or low or medium. It's yeah, it's something, I guess. And there's also multiple conversion windows or postback windows. It's the same thing. So what's the idea here is that previously only one postback was sent after user installed your apps, like in a window of 48 hours. Now there will be 2 more postbacks, 2 more conversions will be sent to SCAD network. So the second one will be after 3 or 7 days, and the last one will be somewhere until the 35 days. So it's really helpful if you want to measure your user stickiness to your app, like in the time the user uses your app. If you want to measure some retention rate or something like that and post back it to ad network for some reason, you can also measure some prolonged stuff, like if you're not giving subscriptions right away, but like presenting it like in a week or so. So you can measure it now with this new postbacks. But important to note that only the first postback can possibly be the high value, like 42 for example. The second and the third postback will be coarse values, so only high, low or medium. But yeah, it's again better than nothing. Also web to app attribution in SCAD network. So if you implementing the ads in your own website, for example, or via iframe from ad network, now it's possible to have attribution from SCAD network if you send user directly to the app store, if you're not using any I don't know, sites in the middle or something like that. So yeah, I think it will help a lot into web to app campaigns, web to app implementations of the ads. So we'll see how it affects mobile marketing. And last but not least, you can also test postbacks in Xcode. So if you will implement it yourself, I don't know why, but anyways, you can test it in Xcode and see for yourself if it's working. And then, as I said, today it was a bit of also news, like not only just a recap of what's new from WWDC, but I also want to share with you some interesting updates. And the one that will be available only next year, it's benchmarks in app analytics. I myself is really eager to see how that will be implemented, because in Adaptive we're also working on something like this. I will see pretty soon, I think. So the idea here to show you like how good is your app performing against the market, and who has this data if not Apple. So yeah, it's really interesting to see what Apple will come up to. Can't wait. The other, I think, a breaking feature, it's not as breaking as IDFA or something like that, but it's still something to note. If previously you can just paste data from the user's clipboard manager without any request, now you have to ask a request from the user to paste it, and I think will broke some of the ways to implement deferred deep links, for example. So yeah, it's a theme to debate, like will it work or not. I think we'll see later on some betas, but it probably a breaking changes. And if you're using clipboard for something in your app, you should definitely think about it and test it, and you have to explain to user why do you want to paste data from their pasteboard. Like I think it's good update for customers, but for some ways to implement deep links, for example, it's breaking it. And also, like the news from the yesterday, the Apple opened third-party payments for South Korea because Apple had to do it because South Korea, they take this action, so. Apple is legally required to do it, and they implemented it like in a minimum way possible as previously in Netherlands with dating apps. So you have to have a specific bundle ID, so it should be separate app for the South Korea, which is not great, as you can probably tell. You should also have a specific entitlement for external payments, all payments should be made inside the app, and you should show this scary pop-up with fixed text like, are you sure you want to proceed to this non-safe way of subscriptions or something like that? So yeah, it's something to look at. If South Korea is a major market for you, probably maybe it will make sense, but they have 26% commission, so it's nearly doesn't make any sense to make it. So it's just made just to comply to the legal side of things and not really for developers. But still, it's something new. And if Apple will be forced to do it in the US, for example, I think we can expect the same way to implement it. So that's it. I hope you learned something new today. I want you to join our community and to subscribe to my Twitter, because I will share more news and more Twitter threads about all the updates about the App Store and subscriptions and other stuff. So yeah, proceed to our community, chat about these updates, see what you can implement in your app, and yeah, good luck with this. And I'll see if I have any questions from you. Yeah, there are no questions, but yeah, this testing features is really something to look at. Yes. I myself also can't wait to try them in Xcode beta. I think it will be, it will be good for the whole ecosystem. And as for Adaptee, we also, of course, implement all these new and hot features from the store kit. So you can expect all this new stuff in our SDK. So yeah, just keep looking and have a nice weekend, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this event. Goodbye.